there, don't you dare change that channel. No, you are at 5 Minutes at the Frat House with Frat House Mike and Sidekick. And we're joined today this is our 100th show. Can you believe this? I mean, seriously. Normally it is. Normally this would be a big deal, but we're going to save that for 5 weeks from now when we go into our third anniversary, our third year, second anniversary. But this is the time for our annual NFL preseason roundtable, and we're joined today by Brandon. Brandon has frequently jumped in with us before. Brandon's our technical director here and has frequently been on many of our football-related programs. And also joining us is one of our great Frat House sports friends and sports analyst, Sammy Hume. So we appreciate all you guys being here with us today. This is we always enjoy doing this one, as we're just going to talk NFL football for the next 30 minutes or so, and we're going to time things out. So we're going to keep things to about 5 minutes apiece, just like we've done in the past. And we've got our timer over there that'll be blowing the horn to let us know, well, when we've gone overtime, like as if that's ever mattered with us, huh? Let's kick it off with a couple of topics. And, you know, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least begin by touching on, I guess, one of the big off-season stories this year has been all of the arrests that have occurred in the NFL. Last count, I know we're well over 25. Anybody got a number on it?
31.
31 now.
31.
Okay. So we've had a heck of a lot of arrests. I guess the question I throw out, let me start it off with you, Brandon, and I hate to do that to you. I'm going to put you on the spot because I guess the most notorious of them is coming from your team. But I guess the question I throw out is, number one, is this an anomaly? Are we seeing something? Is this a pattern? Is the NFL really any different than any other sport? And then, is the NFL not doing enough? Should they be doing something more?
Well, I don't know what they can do. I mean, it seems like they do a lot of research when they draft players. I mean, obviously we just went through the draft not too long ago. And when they, bring players in for free agency and stuff, they seem like they try to do, their due diligence, as they say, to try to make sure they get good character guys. Unfortunately, you do see a lot of teams, though, that seem to not care about it, or players will frequently get second and third and fourth chances. Obviously, you're specifically talking about Aaron Hernandez.
Right.
I mean, there was a lot of questions about him when he was in college, which, let him fall down to the, further rounds in the fourth round where he's drafted. A lot of people saw him as a first or second round talent, but didn't want to take the chance on him. He was a great player. He seemed to have no issues really with the Patriots, but, obviously what's out there sounds really bad. So in hindsight, I guess it was not a good pick. I don't know if it's systemic throughout the NFL or not. We've seen the Broncos have two executives have really bad DUIs recently.
Right.
There's constantly, we hear things of like domestic abuse. We had the guy out in Kansas City last year who murder-suicided his girlfriend. I don't know what they can do to prevent that kind of thing, but you don't really see that. I guess you hear some stories in other leagues, but the NFL seems to have the biggest public issue with it.
Yeah, and the arrests have seemed to run the gamut from everything from, as you just pointed out, DUIs to gun charges to murder, for God's sakes. And I'm sure there's a bevy of other smaller kinds of charges that have been involved in there. Are these guys being targeted, you think? Psychic?
I don't know. I mean, the media's kind of definitely looking out for them. But, I think if you look at the numbers, this is kind of a trend. Let me just spit out some numbers real quick to you. The arrest rate is up 75% year over year. The average average Joe arrest rate for males 22 to 34 is 9.9 since 2003. In the NFL, it's 3.5% in the off season. From 2000 to 2006, the average off-season arrests were 17.7. From 2008 to current, excluding 2007 when Goodell started cracking down on the the off-field arrests, there's been the average arrest is 28.5%, a 61% increase. Mm-hmm. In 2007, when Goodell came into the league and instituted the rule, there were 68 arrests that year. So you're seeing, even though he's increased the punishment, you're seeing that the arrests are still averaging up each year.
About the same, if not increasing. Correct.
Correct.
Okay, but what I was just thinking about was, okay, you got executives in Denver getting arrested. That's That's men.
Right.
What kind of message is that sent to the players?
Yeah.
And my opinion is, if you're going to sign with a team and you're going to play, and then you get arrested for a misdemeanor, you should serve a suspension. If you get arrested for felony, you're done. That's it. I mean, these guys, I don't know if it's invincibility because of the money or the ego, but it seems to me that they think they can get away with pretty much anything.
Help me out with this one, though, a little bit for a moment, because, when Hernandez went through his issue, Goodell actually put out a statement saying, don't anybody dare touch this guy. Now, we just had a situation, however, who's the cornerback from one team that just got traded after an arrest?
Eric Wright.
Okay, there doesn't seem to be the same standard. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, he was a DUI, suspicion of DUI, which, it's not, you can't compare, you got to compare apples to oranges.
Right.
Okay.
Hernandez's case is a little different. I think what Sammy said was actually kind of a good point, though. A lot of these players do feel invincible, like they can do whatever they want, because there was a bit of that from Hernandez in Florida when he was at Florida on the Florida Gators. There was a lot of stories that were around that there was potential issues.
He
that
posted a picture of himself with a gun in the mirror.
Of course, we didn't see that until after the fact, didn't we?
But
go ahead.
Yeah, but I think what that points out is they get this era of invincibility, and it may come even at a lower level, and it just continues as the money comes. It makes them
right. But again, the other point is, like you said earlier, they do their due diligence. But if these teams know, if they know that there's a potential problem, why there shouldn't be big money contracts if you're a problem. Mm-hmm. If you have arrests in college, if you domestic violence, I don't care what it is, DUIs, if you're going to be a problem, you come in for like the league minimum.
There is some psychological profiling that goes on at the combines.
Yeah, earn your money.
Right?
Earn it.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me real quick though
Yeah,
throw out some ideas for possible solutions to this, and kind of get your guys' takes on this. One possibility is issuing a bonus to teams that don't have incidents during the season. Instead of saying, at an individual level punishing someone, how about you look at it from a team approach, where either you go with something positive, like you issue something that's like a bonus
reward you for being a good
so,
boy.
Yeah, you're paying them to behave.
Okay. Or
I don't know. Yeah, really.
I don't know about
you've got
that
the same
one.
look of incredulosity that
Or
I
going
do.
the other way, penalize teams for severe incidents by taking away, say, draft picks.
So you're
Okay.
So you're penalizing the team as a whole.
Okay, as a whole. I was gonna say, as individual, it's
I
like
believe
putting
there
them
is
in a
something
timeout.
like that in place already, where there is a conduct detriment kind of thing, and I don't know if it applies to players at every level, but I think Broncos are in trouble with their executives.
As long as you sign them down.
And then also, at an individual level, coming out with perhaps a stiff zero tolerance policy where if there's arrests made, you're cut from the league.
I think that's
That's
really what
okay,
fans want.
Okay, again, misdemeanors, suspensions, and I'm not talking like a 2-game. I'm talking like 6 to 10 game suspension. If first offense, okay, I'm gonna be a little harsh. First offense, maybe a 4-game suspension.
I think it's 4 is pretty much the standard.
Right.
If you're first time.
If you're convicted of a felony,
So you're
or
there.
even misdemeanors or DUI or wasn't there a player with Dallas, I forget his name, that was in a DUI crash and killed somebody?
Yeah.
He should just be
just
done.
He
Done.
just retired.
Yeah, and any money that was owed to him or any money he got, sign post, should go back. Aaron Hernandez, if he beats this, which I don't think he will, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to letting him back in the league, but it should be, league minimum. You're not getting a huge
Well, if
contract.
he beats it, then.
Yeah, if he, and that's another topic for another day.
Yeah, and I do think there is a fine line you have to walk there about judging someone guilty before every there
Well,
should be
the
some
media
sort of,
does that,
Well, yeah, and us as fans, we do.
Yeah.
We all are quick to judge people,
Right.
and I think there is a little bit of a fine line you have to walk there, where the Patriots just once he got arrested,
they did the right
they're
thing,
like done. He's at
Just a quick point. I said arrogance, money. I also have to add stupidity into that because a lot of these things these guys do is just plain stupid.
Stupidity kind of goes along with arrogance in some respects.
Well, yes.
All right, let's move on to another, what I kind of consider to be a big topic. Gentlemen, 25% of the teams in the NFL starting up this season, brand new head coaches. 25%. That seems high to me. But we had 8 new coaches coming in from Arizona all the way down to San Diego, down to the San Diego Chargers. Let's talk about some of these coaches for a moment. Is anybody jumping off the list here at anybody where you think to yourself, this guy has the biggest chance to turn this team around? Sidekick, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to go with the most obvious one. I think Andy Reid in Kansas City probably has the chance to make the biggest impact. He's in the offseason. They signed Alex Smith. They've got they got the first draft picks. We know Andy Reid's record from Philadelphia. While his last year he was let me see
4-12.
Sorry, look at my notes. Yep, 4-12. But he's 130 and 93
Yep.
for his career as the Eagles head coach. So I think potentially he's got the best opportunity to turn that team around. Now, the new head coach for the Chicago Bears, Mark Trestman, he's probably the biggest surprise, I guess, pick of a head coach.
I was surprised
going in. I was surprised
when they let.
Well, I think we were
Well,
surprised.
I was surprised when Lovie Smith got let
Exactly.
go.
I think that's what was surprising.
But also, I'm surprised that they're picked for a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
So, his background, he won 2 Grey Cup championships in the, CFL with the Montreal Alouettes.
Alouettes, right?
Was with them. So he's got some record in the CFL of winning and being able to do championships. But, it's kind of like an odd pick, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what you're saying with Andy Reid, but I really think he should have taken a year off before jumping to another team.
Yeah, I do too, but
He was distracted last year with his son dying and all that. He's still going to be distracted. I'm not saying he can do it immediately. I do agree with you that he can turn that team around, but it's going to take him 2 to 3 years. He should have taken a year off. That's my opinion.
Well,
And I just think he's just distracted and still
It
weighing on
could
his
be,
mind.
but to further back up the argument for Reid, he does have 5 Pro Bowlers on that defense. That team was really good last year, and they couldn't do anything on offense. And throughout Andy Reid's career with the Eagles, he put up pretty good offensive numbers.
Yeah, and he's got a decent quarterback.
He's got a decent quarterback to start with. That team could be pretty good right away. I think what hurts him a little bit is their division placement. I don't think anybody's going to take the AFC West from the Broncos. So,
Right.
But he's a solid shot at a wild card.
I just think I wonder if he would have stayed here, would Alex Smith be our quarterback right now? It's totally off topic.
oh,
but
I think it's a whole.
What do you-
I personally don't think so, but
you think he would have tried?
no, I don't. No, I don't. I don't think this ownership was planning on making any
Because
moves in
I
that
think there was rumors of that last year that they were trying.
yeah, there might have been. Let me throw 2 out there to everybody here just for consideration. To jump off the page at me. Does Jacksonville get on the radar this year with Gus Bradley? Okay, now if I'm not mistaken, Gus Bradley is their 3rd coach in 3.5 years, I believe.
I believe you're correct.
That's number 1. Number 2, let me throw out the Chip Kelly experiment at Philadelphia. Do either one of these make the radar?
I think Chip Kelly does, just because he's new and he's compared to us as being Philadelphia Eagles fans living in the area. Compared to how many years? 14 years with Andy Reid.
Yes.
Yeah, it's something new. It's something fresh. I think he makes an impact.
I think it's going to get a lot of media attention.
I agree. That's what
Trying to see how his
it's college kind
translates
of
to the
The
NFL.
gizmo offense that
Yeah.
I've kind of referred to, which I don't put much,
That's a good
I don't
name
put
for
much
it.
credit into.
Well, and let's be honest, the Eagles have not played up to their record. They're loaded with talent.
I agree.
I think it was their coaching and not knowing how to put the pieces
I
together.
agree with you. I think
So-
that they really, really misused a number of key players. But go ahead.
Exactly. So, I think Chip Kelly's actually coming in to a team with personnel where there's a lot of key personnel in the right places. It's can he effectively manage those pieces, and can he bring in the holes that are missing?
Well, there's an aura of mystery with him because he hasn't even named a quarterback yet.
Okay, and let me bring that up real quick because I know you follow the Eagles about as much as I do. Is that a controversy, really? Should Chip Kelly be naming a quarterback? I, for one, like the way he's going about it at this point. Mike Vick's making a lot of noise. There's some other rumblings inside the locker room.
I agree with you. I agree. I don't think you should have to name a quarterback.
I agree.
He's the coach. It's his prerogative to name when he's ready.
Right.
Because I mean, they haven't even started training camp yet. I mean, they've had the OTAs and whatever, but it's his prerogative. And I think it makes it more for the fan. Like, okay, this is kind of exciting. Who's going to be? Because you've got 3 potential good quarterbacks there. I mean, Michael Vick is, I don't want to say past his prime. They don't agree with me, disagree with me.
Well, I wouldn't say he's past his prime.
But is he?
I think he's living on borrowed time
to run that offense that Chip Kelly wants.
I think the whole naming of the quarterback thing becomes more important a week, 2 weeks into camp.
Right.
Though, at some point, you have to establish your leader because he is the guy who directs everything on field.
So you don't think they should take it all the way out to say the last game of the preseason?
No, I think well, they should have at some point. You got to establish who's going to be the leader of the team on the field. I mean, I'm not saying that it's imperative that you do it week 1, week 2, week 3, but somewhere it has to, whoever it is needs to rise to the top, and they need to name it so that at some point you can get a flow.
Well, and to that point, I think you can't rush naming the starter because you want to have that healthy competition, and if you name a starter too early, perhaps you're stifling the competition.
Well, plus Kelly's a brand new coach. That's the other thing that I give him the benefit of the doubt for. Why should he have to come in and make a decision on this when, for gosh sakes, he's only seen them play in a couple of OTAs? What? How many? 6, 7, 8? I mean, how do you make a decision based on that? That's ridiculous.
Right, and then they drafted Matt Barkley.
You got Barkley in the mix, right?
So take Vic out of the equation. He's not Foles or Barkley.
You can't make a decision.
Right, and that to me is exciting because you know what?
If anything, you go with Dixon because at least he knows Dixon.
I forgot
and
about
knows
him.
that Dixon can run that offense.
How many quarterbacks are on that?
5 right now. No, there's 5. There's 5. There's a 5th one.
Oh, man.
Wow. Well, before we leave the coach's comment, I just want to say one thing. We haven't talked about him, but Bruce Arians in Arizona with Carson Palmer and all the weapons on that team are going to be a force to be reckoned with because he essentially led the Colts to the playoffs last year
kind of agree with
while
you
Pagano was hurt. So I know we have to switch topics. I just wanted to get that out there.
Carson Palmer, I just
I think that's the question mark.
I think Carson Palmer doesn't get enough credit sometimes.
No, I agree. He got a bad rap.
But also you have to, and I thought about that with Arians. But I think also you have to look at, Arians kind of was sitting on Pagano's team. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you have a new coach come in, you can't really judge them for a couple years because, they inherited something already.
Right.
Give them a couple years to make it their team. So I do agree with you to some respect with Arians, but I think you have to kind of reserve it a little bit because he kind of inherited Pagano's work.
I think they'll be better.
So,
that's all I'm
I
say.
think the
right
key is
they'll
going to
be better.
is
Right.
Carson Palmer to Larry Fitzgerald. If they get that relationship going, look out. That could be potent.
All right. We got a couple of rule changes. In fact, there were more than a couple, but there are 2 in particular that I want to bring up. And the reason I bring these 2 up is because I find it interesting that these rules were changed in what has been considered to be an offensive league. Because I look at both of these changes and say, that's moving away from the offense and putting it more in the hands of a defensive game. And that is number 1. The tuck rule is now out. All right, I'm going to start it off with you because you know that I want to start it off with you because I look at you and I go, you're the blame for this.
Not only am I the blame, I was at the game in the snow.
The other, and the belief is that this is going to affect running backs more than anyone else, is the rule that reads something to the effect of any player at least 3 yards downfield or outside of the tackle box will be penalized 15 yards for leading with the helmet on hits. That does seem to be talking to the running backs for sure because we see it all the time, and yet running backs have never been penalized for that in the past. The offensive linemen maybe have been, the offensive secondary maybe have been, but we haven't seen it from the offensive side of the ball. Both these rule changes affect the defense, in my opinion. Why in the heck would we do this?
Well, the tuck rule is interesting because, like I said, I was at the game with the big famous tuck rule, the Patriots, and it was a great game. It was a lot of snow. The whole vibe was awesome, and nobody in the stands had a clue. We all thought the game was over. He fumbled. What are we going to do? And the tuck rule was put in place simply because they didn't want to have the referees make an on-field judgment call whether the quarterback was trying to throw it or trying to pull it back down. So if his arm was going forward and the ball came out, they initially just called it an incomplete pass. Well, over the years, we've seen it come up a few times. That game obviously brought it to light after, because it was a very public playoff game. it's a good rule to get rid of. I mean, you can tell when a quarterback's intent is not to throw the football. I'll say that. But why are they changing it now? I don't know. I think it's like you said, it is more of an offensive game. Generally, they don't take rules away from the offense.
Right. Do you think that perhaps maybe it was taken out because it is a rather subjective call to make, and so therefore we saw it being called in some cases one way, and in other cases it wasn't.
Well,
called
I think that's why it was there to begin with, was they didn't want them to have to make a subjective call.
Right.
Well, now they have to. So maybe with instant replay being involved, it's a lot easier to make a subjective call. So I don't know if I think it just probably got removed because fans were sick of seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what you said, though, because it was too subjective. I agree with what you said. As for the crown on the helmet, I agree with that. I think it cuts down on potential career-ending injuries if you're hitting with the crown of the helmet.
But how's a running back supposed to get through the line anymore?
No, I understand that, and I think.
I mean, you're getting your momentum. I mean,
No, I understand that you lower your head and you.
Yeah.
All right, I understand that. If there should be some kind of, deviation on the rule. If you're a running back, that really shouldn't apply to you. That's what I agree with it. I agree. What I would say was I agree with no crown of the helmet for, linebackers. Anybody that's going to lead with their head. But running backs do that. So why would you? Again, I misspoke. Why would you take that away from them?
All right. So you're saying you prefer not to see this rule in place?
I would prefer that for running backs,
Right.
it takes away part of their game.
Okay.
How are they? You're right. How are you supposed to get through? Standing
Exactly.
straight up, you're gonna get killed.
Running backs are frequently some of the smaller players on the offensive team to begin with.
Right. And I maybe part of it is concussions.
Well, obviously,
Yeah,
I think that's
that
where it's
may
going.
part of it's
I think
concussions.
that's
Right.
But I don't think you should take that away from the running back. Other players on the field, sure. Linebackers, running, going to take a hit, lower your head, don't do it.
Yeah.
Running backs, that's part of their game. Okay, I misspoke. Now I corrected myself, but maybe part of it is concussions.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's absolutely what's being addressed right now.
LaShawn McCoy last year.
What do you got there, Sidekick?
Well, to go back to the tuck rule, just to throw out some a quick number and
Numbers,
and a funny quote.
Who's become the numbers guy this season?
But I got a funny quote because comedy's my thing.
Go ahead.
So in that vote, the owners meeting when they voted.
Yeah.
So it was 29-1, with the Steelers being the only one that voted against repealing the rule. The Patriots and the Redskins
Both abstained.
abstained.
Right, they both abstained.
Okay.
Well, no, you would understand that.
Right. So now
The Redskins not as
I
much,
have
but the Patriots, yes.
I have a great quote from Robert Kraft
Okay.
about the ruling, and it is, quote, "I love the tuck rule and forever will, and I know Al Davis, may he rest in peace, is probably smiling," end quote.
No, he's not.
Now that it's gone, yeah.
So I thought that was kind of funny, about the tuck rule. Now back to the concussion thing. I'm going to throw my Dr. Welby, MD, hat on here a second. I wish we could show a slide. I think the reason why they came up with this rule is strictly for protection from concussions. Because in all the concussion research that I've done, doing different things,
Absolutely.
it's the alignment. One of the biggest causes is the alignment of the spine and the head when you're doing a hit. So when you're dropping down and you're leading with your helmet, if you're not in a proper alignment, it increases your chance of getting a concussion. Compressing the spine.
Right.
Stingers, things like that. So I think this is strictly from a liability standpoint, trying to bring down concussions. So.
Okay. Well, let me. I had a quick thought on that, though. Does this change the way running backs are going to run the ball?
It potentially is, yeah. They're going to have to. It's going to change up their game. Unfortunately, like you were saying, that's taking away a piece of their game. But it's also a safety measure, and I think,
How are they going to bust through if they can't lower their heads?
Right.
I think
You're going to stand straight up and get tackled?
I think
that's,
this rule is going to take a little bit to evolve, because I think it's a little subjective as to, okay, was he 3 yards downfield or 2.5? Are we going to sit in instant replay?
Oh,
This is it has an intent. Let's see how
it's
it's
going to need to be tweaked.
Let's see how it gets implemented on the field. I mean, anytime they say, within even the 5-yard, receiver with the cornerback thing, they say they can touch for 5 yards. They still always talk about that.
Yeah.
So let's just this might not be that big a deal of the
another
first
couple
year.
years
Let's
of
see how it
flag
evolves.
football.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, I
got
agree
it.
with you.
I got it. All right, correct me if I'm wrong here, gentlemen, but last I checked, and this can keep changing because, gosh, we've seen it happen in the NHL, where the NHL now has, what, 6 games outdoors? The NFL this year is going to have, what, 2 games in Europe? Has that changed at all? I think we're at 2, right?
2.
But nonetheless, we know that Commissioner Roger Goodell has come out and actually stated on numerous occasions that he'd like to see more games in Europe, all right?
Wasn't that the European?
NFL Europe.
NFL Europe.
NFL
Europe.
They
Okay.
didn't really do too well.
And we've heard, and in fact, it seems to me we've heard a lot more kind of conversation about this sort of thing this off-season than I remember it in the past. Let's talk about NFL in Europe. Does this, I'll make my feelings known at the end. Does this make any sense, really? What's the point of this? That was the question.
Don't they already have NFL Europe?
I think it still exists,
They
yes?
did. No, they
No,
did.
they
They
got
shut
that.
down.
They get shut down.
They had
No.
6 teams within Europe, and it didn't work. And I guess their thinking is well, that was a minor league. Let's get the real teams there because they do send a team to Europe and they do sell out Wembley Stadium, blah blah blah. But I think long term, I don't think it's going to be good. I don't think any team can be competitive. You're going to have a hard time attracting free agents. They don't want to play, 6-8 games a year in Europe. I mean, they're talking about doing splitting with, like right now with Jacksonville. Yeah, they're going to do 2 for the next couple years, and eventually they may want to see. Well, let's do half and half.
When
And
the owner in Jacksonville has already said, "There's no way, I'm not doing that."
Well, I don't.
Shaka Khan.
Exactly. Exactly. Shaka.
I think this is a bad idea, and it's it's our game.
I
It's
just don't
America's
understand.
game.
I don't
agree.
understand the purpose. That's what I don't
agree.
understand.
Most European fans treat our football as novelty. They'll go. That's why they sign up. They want to go see it, but maybe they'll see it once. I can see in the preseason. Okay, but not during the regular season. It's our game. Okay,
Yeah.
Brandon, it's
Yeah.
our game.
Right.
They don't import cricket over here for us to watch because honest classically nobody.
Well, I mean, Goodell has actually come out and said he wants to see football in the Olympics, which I'm opposed to that. All right.
That's ridiculous. That's all I'm gonna
Well,
say.
I agree with you.
ridiculous.
You're
we
never
don't
going to have
have
another country to compete with us.
we don't have
Exactly.
baseball in the Olympics, and yet he's actually out there lobbying for football. I think it's stupid. I agree.
Ridiculous.
I just don't understand the purpose of it. To me, when you take an Americanized sport and you take it overseas, all right? I mean, there's talk right now. What we're going to have is it a baseball game that's going to be played in Australia?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A lot of times it's to introduce that fan base to a sport.
Right.
We don't need to introduce
No,
this sport to
we
Europe.
have one.
Why? Why are we doing this? That's my question. What's the motivation? Any ideas?
Well, we know that it's a failed experiment
Yeah.
because obviously the NFL Europe didn't make it.
Right.
Okay, I honestly think the only fan base that the NFL has is in England,
Right.
which is why you have these games in London.
Oh my God.
And it didn't take off in the rest of Europe.
Right.
And so why are we still trying to force it down their throats? I can understand having an exhibition game or something like that. One game a year where you get 2 teams and you put them over in London and you have an exhibition game. Or maybe, okay, I'll concede and say maybe 1 regular season game. Okay, like maybe the start of the season is an exhibition game in England or something like that, kind of like what baseball does. But I don't think the NFL is going to take off in Europe. Outside of England.
I think the only purpose for this is additional revenue. That's all
Well,
they're trying
I
to
agree.
do is make
But
money.
are they
Definitely.
really making more money
I
than
think
they would
I
if they
think
held
I
the games
think
here in America?
I think what they're looking at is if they can make Europe like the NFL, like we do, they can sell more merchandise, sell more games, blah blah blah, over a period of time. I don't know if it'll work. I don't think it will because
Right.
the NFL Europe failed miserably.
I'm sorry, I'm still hung up on the football and the Olympics idea.
Yeah, that's
It blows my
that's
mind.
not a great
I
idea.
just picture like our team against a team from like Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Those skinny guys, and it's just. I'm sorry.
let's see them line up against the China national
Yeah,
team.
China national football team.
They never played football in
with
their
the
life.
sumo,
They've
with the
been- yeah,
sumo
well,
offensive line.
Yeah, they didn't
you
play
know?
football for 6 weeks, and then the Olympics.
You
and
know,
it was-
the NHL works in the Olympics.
It's
They
like,
come from
it's
all
like
over
the
the
Jamaican bobsled
Yeah,
team.
but you know what? We'd be murdered in the media because our guys would like you said, just China national team. We're skinny. One of our linebackers puts a hit on somebody and hurts somebody. All of a sudden, America would be the bad guy. Yeah, we'd be
You're
disqualified.
roughing everybody up.
Hey, we would get gold though. we would definitely get gold. There's no way around it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Talk about a
Except
dream
for,
team.
Except for those Canadians. Gotta watch
Talk
that.
about a dream team.
They have football.
Well, then, exactly. Do you use Canadian football rules or do you use the U.S. football rules?
This is a topic for another day.
It starts to get all way too convoluted.
We could spend hours on that.
You know,
Let's
let's
stick
keep
to
it to exhibition.
Let's stick with what works. The NFL works in America.
Yeah. I could see. I mean, I understand Europe, but why not send it to why not play a preseason game in Japan?
Move it
Or
exactly.
something like
Move
that.
it. Yes, move
Well,
it
they
around.
tried doing China a few years ago. The Patriots were going to go play, and it didn't work out. They never even got the game.
Yeah, but the Japanese love American culture. And it may be a better move to try it in Japan. You know,
Right.
China, they're a very strange country. Hey, stop that.
All right. All right. Well, let's wrap it up this way. Brand new season. We're wide open at this point. Let's just kind of throw out our comments and our thoughts on both the AFC and NFC. And let me start it off this way. I'll just give everybody here. I took a look this morning at the NFL Vegas lines for who might be winners in the AFC and the NFC, and then onward from there. Right now, the Vegas odds have got winners in the AFC. The Denver Broncos are 5-2. New England Patriots are 7-2. Houston Texans are 13-2, and the Baltimore Ravens are 9-1. So that's who they see coming out of the AFC. In the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers are the overwhelming favorite, 15-4. Seattle Seahawks 9-2. Green Bay Packers 6-1, and the Atlanta Falcons surprisingly are 15-2. And in the fourth spot, your St. Louis Rams actually are below the Philadelphia Eagles at 25-1. The Eagles are 22-1. The Giants are 12-1 to win the East, but not go any further than that. Projected for the Super Bowl, Denver Broncos versus the San Francisco 49ers. Go ahead. Ring in. Thoughts?
Patriots have a lot of work to do. I don't agree with those odds. They have a lot of work to do. They lost Wes Welker. They lost Aaron Hernandez. They have a lot of work to do. Brady,
Patriots offense needs to be completely reestablished.
Brady needs help.
Yeah.
Do
I
you
agree.
see that East going differently?
I don't see the East going differently because the AFC East just flat out sucks. You know, the Jets are not going anywhere. The Dolphins are constantly rebuilding. The Bills are the Bills. They have a solid defense, but they don't ever seem to get it together on offense. The Patriots are going to win the East probably. I don't see why not. However, I don't see them going far unless they can develop. I mean, they still have Stephen Ridley. Gronkowski will be healthy at some point, but that's it. I mean, they got new receivers in every position. They were smart. They didn't sign. They claimed Jake Ballard from the Giants when he was hurt. I think he's going to be the instant replacement for Hernandez if he can stay healthy and develop the rapport. Him and Gronk could be pretty close to the same thing as him and Hernandez were. Danny Woodhead's now a Charger. Stephen Ridley's back. It's going to take some time. I mean, we still have Danny Amendola from the Rams. If he can stay healthy, he might be good.
You guys have the greatest offseason acquisition ever. You signed Jesus.
Oh, yes.
You've got Tim Tebow.
Yes.
He's the savior. Come on now.
He's not going to play though,
He might not even be on the roster.
unless he levitates over the field and
I find look, let's get it straight. I'm looking at Vegas
Gonna build an
odds.
ark.
I'm looking at Vegas odds here, and we're still sitting here 38, 37, 36 days before the season actually opens, and the odds are always going to mirror how things went last season. Let's get it straight. That's how it's mirrored.
The Ravens aren't getting any love, and they were the winners.
9-1. 9-1. I think that what Vegas is skeptical about is all the defensive moves.
Yeah,
that
well,
they made.
they ripped the team apart after
So,
they won.
The question I ask is, does anybody here see anybody coming out that's not listed here? Or are we
Absolutely.
looking at a mirror of last year?
The
New Orleans?
NFC West?
Go ahead.
Pete Carroll with the Seahawks
I was gonna say
need to
that.
watch their back end for the Rams. I'm telling you. The Rams went undefeated in their division last year.
Homer.
No, you know me. No, wait, hold on. You know I'm very real about my team.
I know.
When
Go
they
ahead.
suck, they suck.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, this year, the Seahawks need to watch for the Rams. They got some good picks. We lost Steven Jackson.
You did. I think you did one of the best in the draft.
We got offensive line help. I'm telling you, the Seahawks need to watch for the Rams this year.
I think the Rams had probably one of the best drafts, if not the best draft, of any team out there in the entire NFL.
I'm not knocking you with your Rams prediction, but I don't follow Seattle football, but what I saw last year, they could be a contender this year. I know they're on the list, but they could be a contender more so than they were last year.
I agree with you.
They got the bug.
I'm not trying to
So
knock
long
them
as-
down and say.
So long as we're not looking at a sophomore slump.
You're
Right,
looking at.
I agree.
You're still looking at teams 2 and 3 in the West because nobody's beating the 49ers. They're coming out for bear. They lost in that Super Bowl. They're going to be better than they were
Again,
a year ago.
sophomore slump could happen.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think you got the.
two teams
I
right
think
there.
I think right now, if I had to pick a winner, San Francisco is going to win the Super Bowl. That's just my
on
right
an
now.
unrelated note, the New York Jets. Are they going to have a quarterback controversy this year?
The Jets, what?
Yeah, I know they suck. I know, but
Well, they just you got I think you absolutely do. I mean,
Yeah.
take a look at what's happening right now.
Sanchez and Geno Smith.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got Sanchez. You got Sanchez out there running his own little mini camp. Doesn't invite Geno Smith. Everybody's making a big deal about that. But I got to be honest with you. If I were Sanchez, I wouldn't invite him either.
well,
Come on,
If I've been told that
I
hey,
agree,
it's
yeah.
your job to win, then
The Jets are still going to be the laughing stock of the NFL.
The Jets are
the
dysfunctional.
Jets until I listen. You know, one of the things that I had down here listed, 13 burning questions for the NFL season. One of the questions was, does Rex Ryan make it through this season?
no.
And I really believe that the Jets' biggest issue is their coach. That's
I
my
agree.
personal
Here's the biggest joke
I
of all
agree.
of it. They had a GM position open that they couldn't get somebody to fill.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
nobody wanted to go.
Nobody
there.
wanted it because the owner's dictating you have to work with Rex Ryan. No GM worth his salt is going to be told who his head coach is going to be.
Right.
This is a joke. When this year's over and Rex Ryan's contract's over, he's a lame duck this year. He knows it. Everybody knows it. It'll be another revamping.
I had watched on HBO. They did the Hard Knocks with the Jets.
Yes.
And I mean, yeah, the Jets suck. But some of the guys they let go that he deemed weren't good enough are now playing at pretty good level on other teams. I agree with you. That coach, Rex Ryan, he's got to go.
Yeah.
That whole management that needs to be revamped.
Right. Right.
Did they
Absolutely.
start doing it last year? They kicked a couple people out, fired a couple people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd have to. I'd
And
have
mark
to go back
my
and take a look
words,
at it. But
Fireman Ed stays retired.
You're going to see some other teams.
like
that
that's the
are
hottest issue, right? That's the hottest issue.
That's all we care about with the Jets. Is
I think
is he Brett
besides
Favre?
besides this, you got to look for some other teams that were good that I think are going to have better seasons this year. You're going to have the Saints, the Packers. I think are going to be better than they were last year.
Yeah, I
Go
agree with
further.
you. I agree
Pittsburgh?
with you.
Pittsburgh, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know about Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh is kind of a little long in the tooth.
I'm a fan of the underdog. I'd like to see a team that was terrible last year come out and just, kill somebody. Just start winning games. Example.
Sucks for fantasy though.
I know it does. I agree. But okay,
Makes it interesting.
like Jacksonville.
Yeah, because they'd all be on your team.
Jacksonville stinks. How great would it be if they came out and won like 12, won 12 games and went to the playoffs?
Yeah,
It's just
the Chiefs are one who could do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But something like that. I'm a fan of the underdog Super Bowl. I'd love to see like Kansas City and whoever, or the Jets. Jacksonville.
Well, not the
that's
Jets. No, not the Jets, please. Not the Jets.
So Tebow could get him there, like you said. He's Jesus.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that though, do we see the Ravens fall flat on their face? They signed Flacco to that huge contract.
Very possible.
Huge money.
You got my boy retiring. Do we see them fall on their face and not even make the playoffs this
My
year?
opinion about Flacco has not changed. I will continue to be exactly as I have been. I think he's overrated.
I think the
I
Ravens
agree
are
with
going to be a
that.
long shot to make the playoffs the way they've changed that team.
Yeah.
All their leaders are gone
Yep.
for
Yep.
the most part.
All right, listen, folks, we appreciate all of you tuning in to us here at our special annual NFL preseason roundtable. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed doing it. We love doing this show. Probably, it's one of the top shows we love doing so much. So
Can we do it in air conditioning next time?
yeah,
please.
it's
It's
a
our
little
100th
warm out here.
It's
at
our
Frat House.
100th episode, and it's 100 degrees out here.
I'm stuck to this chair.
I mean, come on.
Let me throw out a couple of quick thank yous and reminders. Please make sure you get over and support our friends over at CLW 83 with Jim Williams and Carl over there. And we thank them for rebroadcasting and showing all of our programs here from Frat House Sports on their network as well. So please give them a look up, all right, and give them a like over on their Facebook page as well. And make sure you continue to follow us. 2 places over on Facebook. Check us out, Frat House Sports, and then also frathousesports.net. All right. We will be back to you in our regular environs next week for our
In the
101st,
air-conditioning.
the air-conditioned environs, our 101st episode of 5 Minutes at the Frat House. In the meantime, I ask you to do one more thing for me. You know what it is. You got to keep us real, you got to keep us live, you got to keep us going. We'll see you next week.
Oh, okay. All
Check the sound while we're all talking while it's recording, Jen.
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I see you got that bright red Patriots jersey on there.
Yeah? What's it?
Blood
say?
red.
oh,
Like you got shot.
man.
I find that offensive.
The new Dallas Cowboys. We got the new Dallas Cowboys here.
That's where he's gonna sign when he gets out of jail. That's where everybody goes.
Hey, is that a Thugonomics jersey
How'd
there?
it sound?
What was that movie, Basketball, where the two Dallas felons? That's where they all
the
go.
Dallas Felons.
Go to jail.
I need to check the
When
video.
OJ comes out, they'll sign him too.
There you go.
The juice is loose in
Should I
Dallas.
take it in?